Okay, so today we're talking about legally compliant guest management in M365 without compromise. Maybe some of you are already working with guests in M365, so you're inviting someone to work with you, to collaborate with you on your tenant, usually within Teams, sometimes on SharePoint sites, depending on where you have your environment yet. And that comes with some issues, and we're talking about those issues today and how to resolve those issues. I will just click through my presentation here. I'm using Miro, so it's not a usual PowerPoint presentation. It's a little fancier than that. I'm trying my best to go with the time here. So at first, we want to ask the question, what are guests in M365? So it's very important to understand that a guest in M365 needs to be invited into your tenant. They need to be invited into or created in Entra, and the only thing Microsoft wants from you is an email address. So you have to go into your Entra environment, enter an email address for this guest, and invite them into your tenant. Then after that, they get optional access to resources within your tenant, like M365 group content, Teams, SharePoint sites, and applications like OneNote or Planner, depending on whatever you give them access to. The next question we should ask is what challenges arise if we are inviting users to our tenant. So the end user questions are usually, so who's allowed to invite someone? Do you have restrictions on your tenant? Microsoft provides several restriction options, so you could restrict it completely and say no end user can invite anyone, and only an administrator can do that. Then you can also say that and ask, how is the invitation sent? So is it sent via email? Do you have a ticket system for that? Is there any security? Is there any maybe contract sent out first? And also, what is the guest invited to? So where does the guest have access to? The next thing we should ask is the guest questions. So who sent the invitation to the guest? What did they invite the guest to, and who did they invite? Then the location, what does or did the guest have access to? How long does the guest have access? And when does the access need to be removed? Those questions should really challenge yourself or if you should challenge yourself with those questions, because if you can't answer them, you have a security issue there. So it's very important to think about those questions, answer them, and find a way to work with them. Because usually Microsoft gives us two options. We can allow guests or we can completely restrict them. So those are the two pictures Microsoft gives us. They obviously AI created, so if it doesn't look that pretty, my apologies. So we can give the guest an open door and say, yeah, sure, come in, everyone can join us and we can work together. But that comes with a big security issue because we don't know the guests, we don't have any further information but the email address. So we don't know when should they leave, who invited them, is it secure, do we have an NDA with them, what kind of information can we share, how long can we share it, etc., etc. So there's a lot of questions arising. And the other option is to say, no, we don't allow guests at all, which also comes with challenges, because if we don't allow guests at all and say like, okay, they are not allowed in our tenant and we don't want to collaborate with them, then your end users will find a workaround. They will download the documents and send them via emails. They will find sharing options, dangerous sharing options, and the documents and the shared links will just disappear within that huge digital work life we have already. So it's much easier to try to find a middle way. Middle way would look like that. So we would have open doors, but with a security gate. So that's usually also how businesses look like. If you think back when we were still working in the real world, meeting up within real buildings together to collaborate, to work together, you never were able to just go into a huge company and say, hi, I'm Eva, I'm working today with Tom, and then go there and work with that person just by saying who you are. you usually had to sign documents saying like, yeah, I'm only here for today. My corresponding partner here is Tom Whitaker, and we are working on project X, and we are doing that since whatever. And I signed a contract and I agree to the data security, whatever. So I had to do something and didn't just get invited with my email address. So there was a security gate. And in the digital life, we don't have that security gate anymore. We just invite them or we don't. And that's something our company took care of. So we are trying to find a way for that, but we come to that a little later. So if guests are allowed, what happens next? We want to track what data is processed. We want to prove this was communicated. We want to track who accessed what, and we want to have that regular relevance check. So do we still need that person on our tenant? And we want to block the guest access if we need to. We want also to restrict the guest access. We want to have more control in that digital life, because if we don't have control, we have a big issue there. So if you don't have any system in your M365 environment yet, you should really start like wondering if that is a secure way to go. This is the M365 way. So we invite a guest with an email address, with the team owner or group owner, or the admins have to create them. And then that guest account is being created and has access. And from here, there's a way of Microsoft with a P1 or P2 license, which is usually very expensive, to have a little more, like an access review and extensions and stuff like that. But I don't want to dive too deep into this because that's like a very expensive license of Microsoft. And I'm pretty sure that nobody has it within our group we are gathered here today. So let's look into something a little similar but cheaper. It's our solution. It's the best practice with M365 and the external user manager. So what we did is we created a system, which you see here, where when you want to invite a new guest, every end user can invite that guest, but with a kind of a security system. So they have to answer questions like metadata. Where would you like to invite them to? Why do you like to invite them? Then it goes into an approval process. So an administrator or an approver can be two different people, needs to approve that person. If that person approved this email address or this guest, the guest goes into an onboarding system. Within the onboarding, they have to also sign documents like GDPR, security guidelines, and fill out metadata fields. And when they are finished with the onboarding process, they get access to your M365 environment. After they have access, after a certain amount of time, which is completely customizable, they have an access review. If they pass the access review, they go into an extension, and then they have like a life cycle, so they can go around and around and around. And on some point, if the access review goes out negative and they are not extended anymore, they will be removed from the team. And if they are in no team, they will be deleted from your tenant. So your tenant is safe again. So this is what it should look like. This is a secure way of handling guests. This is also a way for end users to work with guests, but having that safety net around them. I just want to show you very quickly what it could look like. So this is my external user manager test environment. External user manager is completely integrated into your Teams environment. This is an overview an end user can have. So this is actually the overview of an end user. So an end user would see if they have requests open, if they have approved or denied requests. So with this overview, for example, you see all the email addresses and people I ever invited, to which teams I invited them, and also when they got access, when the next renewal were, if the access got revoked already, and which state they are in right now. So I have one person in onboarding. A lot of people reject it, of course, because in the demo environment, that's the way it should be. And I also have approved requests. If I want to invite someone, I have to just click here at request. And then I get like a path or steps I have to follow. So I can enter my email address here. It's my private one. Then I already have filled out all those data. If I would change it, I think I haven't invited this email. Okay, I have. Let's do this one. So if I never invited someone, those fields will be empty. If I already invited the person, the external user manager remembers and will pre-fill out those metadata fields. Metadata fields also completely customizable, so you can ask for whatever data you would like to ask when a guest gets invited. And most of the fields can also be synchronized to your Entra environment, which also means that your Entra environment stays clean. Then I have to find a team I want to invite that person to. I just take my like a team. It's one of my good ones. And then I create that request. So super simple, super easy, completely in a self-service. So I invited that person already. So that's why external user manager tells me now, like, hey, this is already an approved request. Why are you doing that twice? Well, it's late, so probably that's why. And that person is already in onboarding, and onboarding can look like that. So that's an email the external user manager sends out as an onboarding process. Then I would click start onboarding, and then it forwards me to my onboarding portal. And the onboarding can also be customized. So now I get a 6-digit code via email, 436. Wonderful. Then I verify. And so this is in German right now because my email address is German. So it reads also what language you're speaking. I think I could change it to English here. Yeah, wonderful. So that you know what's going on. So all the design can be changed, and now I can continue through with my onboarding process. So yeah, I want to accept that I got invited. So what type of guest I am. This also metadata field I need to fill in as a guest. So I'm a consultant. Then I have like those compliance GDPR documents I have to sign and accept. Do I sign them? Wonderful signature there. I have to read all the pages. I agree with those terms and conditions. I accept them. And when I finish, the onboarding is finished and I can go to the team. So now I have access because I did my onboarding, I signed all the documents, and now the MFA is starting. And that's how a secure system works. For the administrators, there's an overview. An administrator always has the overview of who's in my tenant, who got invited. There are naming conventions so that an end user in your system knows who is external and who's internal. There are systems behind that. So when I click on that person here, so that's me, I have my whole overview. I have an audit report, which I can download. I can download the signed documents. I can see what metadata fields that person filled out. I see a history of what is going on. I see if there's an issue somewhere, etc., etc. So there's a lot of information, which gives you a lot of security and a better overview of what's going on.